Hi everyone. In this video, we will be dealing with an intellectual and a cultural movement which had actually an enormous effect on the African American literature, that is the Harlem Renaissance. So you might have heard of this Harlem Renaissance. It is an intellectual and cultural revival of the African American literature, art, music, fashion and everything like scholarship, theater, politics. So this was technically, we can say that, a revival of the African American literature and culture. And it was centered in Harlem, and that is why the term Harlem Renaissance. So Harlem is actually a city in the New York City, and it actually span around 1920s and 1930s. So the first question is, why Harlem? Harlem was actually a city designed to be the place for the whites, but it attracted it attracted many African Americans after the Civil War. So Harlem, it was the destination for the migrants from around the country, attracting both the people who came there in search of work and educated class who actually made the area a center of culture. And then you can find that it actually became a growing Negro middle class. And why we say this Negro or the black middle class is because it was actually their attempt to reconceptualize what they were taught to be negative. Because you can find that the Harlem Renaissance, the participants of the Harlem Renaissance, they sought to reconceptualize apart from the white stereotypes, okay, because we know that anything black or anything regarding to the black culture was considered to be inferior by the white people. So here you can find that in this Harlem Renaissance, the participants, they sought to reconceptualize apart from the white stereotypes that had influenced the blacks' relationship with their own culture and also with each other. Because for a long period of time, these black people, they were actually given the idea that they are inferior. So this was actually their attempt to revive or their attempt to reconceptualize themselves from the white stereotypes. And you can find that they also sought to break away from the Victorian morals and values and also from the bourgeois shame about the aspects of their lives that might as seen by the whites, reinforce the racist belief. So that was the major purpose, or that was actually the aim of the Harlem Renaissance. And you can find that the Harlem Renaissance, it was such a huge success that it laid the groundwork, or it laid the foundation for all the later African American literature, and it also had a great impact on the black literature and also the consciousness of the world. So that was the impact of Harlem Renaissance on the African American literature. And you can also say that after the Harlem Renaissance, or during the Harlem Renaissance, there came an acceptance for the African American writers as they are. They don't have to adjust into the white literature. They just don't have to adjust into any other sorts. They actually, or the people started to accept their literature as their own. And we can find that a famous quote said by Langston Hughes regarding this Harlem Renaissance is that with Harlem came the courage to express our dark-skinned selves without fear or shame. To express our dark-skinned selves without fear or without shame. So that was the major, or that was, we can say, the final result of the Harlem Renaissance. The African American writers, they started to accept that, okay, these are we, and therefore we don't have to fall into the stereotypes of the white people. We don't have to answer them. We are not just inferior, we are just equal to them. So this consciousness was put forward into each and every African American person after this or during this Harlem Renaissance. And now let's look at the major writers who comes under Harlem Renaissance. So as we said earlier, Langston Hughes, of course, Langston Hughes is a major person who comes under Harlem Renaissance, and his works like Not Without Laughter, these all echoes the Harlem Renaissance ideologies. Then we have Zora Neale Hurston and her work, Their Eyes Were Watching God. So these are all certain works and the writers that actually shows this Harlem Renaissance passion. And then we have Jesse Redmond Faust and Claude Mackay. So these are the major writers who comes under Harlem Renaissance. So now let's look at a question that was asked in June 2019. So you would get an idea about how you can expect questions from such general topics. What does Harlem Renaissance refer to? Option A scientific and rational ethos including freedom from superstitions in 18th century Europe. No, because we know that it actually takes place in America. The flourishing of African American literature in the 1920s and 1930s. Yes, that is a correct statement. A church system overseen by a governing hierarchy of four courts? No. The revelation of Christ to the Gentiles in the persons of Magi? No. So we know the correct answer is option B. Harlem Renaissance is the flourishing of African American literature in the 1920s and 1930s. So the correct answer is option B. So that's all about Harlem Renaissance. Thank you.